Welcome back to The Ed Show. As thousands gathered to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at the dedication for his memorial, a smaller group of men and women chose to celebrate Dr. King in a different way. They rallied on the steps of the Supreme Court demanding economic justice for the poor and working class in this country, the 99%. One of those activists was Dr. Cornel West. Here's some of what he had to say.
Out of deep love for working and poor people, that we are willing to put whatever it takes, even if we get arrested today, and say we will not allow this day of Martin Luther King Jr.'s memorial to go without somebody going to jail. Because Martin King would be here right with us, willing to throw down out of deep love.
And a short time later, Dr. West was arrested, and he is joining me tonight as promised. Dr. Cornel West, professor at Princeton University Center for African American Studies. He's also the author of the Brother West, Living and Loving Out Loud, and the co-host of a new radio show, Smiley and West. Great to have you with us tonight, Professor. You know you're always welcome on this program.
Always a blessing, my brother. Congratulations to you for your new time slot, though, brother.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Are you absolutely positive that Dr. King would have been there? Would this have been his moment? Would this have been his movement? Would he have been a leader of this?
But there's no doubt that King would be part of the Occupy movement. He would appreciate the stone and mortar that my Alpha brothers put together. He did, in fact, embrace that kind of affirmation. But most importantly, he lived on the ground, tied to love, tied to justice, always part of a movement, trying to bring people of all colors, all cultures, all civilization, all sexual orientations, and all religions, or our agnostic and atheistic brothers and sisters, too. That Martin Luther King Jr. knew that he had to connect public interest to the plight of the weak and the vulnerable in this society and around the world.
You went to jail. Symbolism, is that what it was?
Symbolic in terms of a gesture. It wasn't symbolic in terms of the 24 and a half hours inside the clinker, though, brother. That was real. With the shackles on my ankles and the handcuffs, it was very real. But with 18 others, and of course we mixed with the brothers and sisters of various colors, disproportionately black, there in the jail.
Cornel, why is this happening now? Why is this movement aloft? Why is it on the move? What's happening?
I think what's happening is that you're getting moral outrage, righteous indignation, especially among young brothers and sisters of all colors who see a decay in the two-party system. They see a Republican Party mediocre, mendacious, mean-spirited. They see a Democratic Party not strong enough, oftentimes too spineless, oftentimes too milquetoast, and they're looking for other venues to see who's speaking on behalf of poor and working people.
This is what Congressman Allen West of Florida, a Tea Partier, had to say about the 99% movement.
Martin Luther King Jr. would not have backed these type of protesters. First of all, Martin Luther King Jr. had a focus, he had a message, and he was divinely inspired. I don't know what the inspiration is for these individuals.
What's your response to that, Dr. Cornel West?
No, Brother West is as wrong as he can be. That Martin Luther King Jr. not only was fundamentally committed to movement, organizing, mobilizing, but he was also committed to civil disobedience. It was very clear that when he saw the status quo was characterized by paralysis, a certain kind of decay, and even a certain kind of rot even, he said we must renew it. We renew it by what? Bearing witness. Take, for example, what you were talking about in regard to Gaddafi. Assassination, murder, execution, killing. Is that the way to conduct a foreign policy? Why did Abe Lincoln say, let us not execute Jefferson Davis? He had a wisdom there. Is it the case that U.S. allies, be they tyrants like Pinochet in Chile or tyrants like Mubarak in Egypt, should they be executed? Should they be murdered? No, there has to be another way. And the problem is, though, Brother Ed, is that we're only as strong as our opponents. And if, in fact, we use the same criteria of the Republican Party for democratic foreign policy, then we're going to find ourselves in the same cycle of execution, cycle of assassination, and more cycle of collective punishment. Because, as you know, those drones do actually, when they drop those bombs, they're killing innocent members of families, even though it may be tied to a terrorist in that home. They're killing the daughter, the wife, the sister. That's wrong. They're still innocent as human beings, but they're in a family with a terrorist. And so this issue of the cycle of violence that Martin Luther King Jr. was concerned about is something that the Occupy movement is wrestling with right now in 1,000 cities and 82 countries and 5 continents. And I'm telling you, Brother Ed, we know Republicans would say if Barack Obama walked on water, they would say he can't swim. Okay, that's a given. But at the same time, we've got to have a different criteria than the Republican Party. We can't just simply have the ricochet back and forth, the mimicking of two mean-spirited Republicans, Democrats who we hope would do better, but we know they're tied to the oligarchs too in their own way. The Occupy movement says there must be another way of thinking about this, even though we know at the moment we're locked in. And of course, we know that Barack Obama is better than any of the mediocre Republican candidates, but that's not saying a whole lot because, my God, you would be a better candidate than any of those put together, brother.
Let's not get carried away. Dr. West, stay with us now. I want to ask you about President Obama's jobs bill that was just voted down in the Senate. Stay tuned. We're back with more with Dr. Cornel West here on The Ed Show on MSNBC.